Hello and welcome back to the game room, this time around for a game hunting video in Copenhagen, Denmark. And I'm absolutely stoked to take you along for the ride, show off all the cool places we went and things we did. And yeah, we made time for game hunting, so I'm going to show off those shops as well. And stick around till the end because I will absolutely show off all the pickups. Let's get into it right now. I'm in Copenhagen. Welcome to Copenhagen, Denmark, an absolutely lovely place where the people are beautiful and the beer is unreasonably expensive. I was super lucky to tag along to Denmark on my wife's work trip, and after about an 8-hour flight across the Atlantic, we've got a full 4 days in Copenhagen ahead of us. Our trip is taking place in October, and it's certainly feeling like fall here. One thing I'm noticing is that everyone around me is pretty much bundled up, and I'm Canadian, so the 16 degrees Celsius weather is just fine. I may have gotten a few looks wearing short sleeves and shorts, but I wasn't too worried about it. We're kicking off the first full day of adventuring across the city with a hotel breakfast, and got some new friends with us, and we're just kind of touring around, soaking in just how beautiful the city of Copenhagen really is. We sort of toured across the city using Google Maps and found our way from one cool stop to the next. Our wandering led us straight to Copenhagen's beautiful botanical gardens. Playing host to over 13,000 different types of plants, the botanical gardens are Denmark's largest collection of living plants. These gardens are free to tour and were established way back in 1874. They have a palm house that includes 50-foot cast iron spiral staircases and a butterfly house too. This place was just an absolute blast to explore. We end our first day in Copenhagen at Tivoli, the third oldest operating amusement park in the world, and as day turns to night, the full-on Halloween-themed celebrations are in full effect. The park has 4 roller coasters, tons of carnival games, and a bunch of other awesome amusement park stuff to do. I have to say, the glug, a Swedish take on mulled wine, was particularly great. It is time for some game hunting. And you know, normally when I'm out traveling around, I like to walk, I take public transit, but everybody in Copenhagen uses bikes to get around. They are everywhere. Today, my buddy Chris and I, we're gonna rent some bikes and hit 2 of the major game stores in Copenhagen. Let's get to it. Game hunting in Europe can be tricky for a couple of reasons. A lot of North American consoles are region locked, meaning that games released in Europe won't play on our consoles. And I don't really want to get into buying games that were released in both North America and Europe for region-free consoles. So, what I did was scour the internet for a list of games that were released exclusively in Europe that will work on North American consoles, obviously ones that are region-free. So with that in mind, it kind of limits the amount of games that I'm hunting for today, but we're still gonna find a few. Let's go. First game store of the day, and it's this little gem called Ruben and Bobby. This one's a cozy toy and game shop with loads of jam-packed shelves and a charming vibe, and yeah, you can even get your hair cut too. On the day we were visiting, the store was busy filming some professional content, but they were awesome about letting us film and shop. They've got a handful of decent pinball tables and even a little CRT setup where you can hang out and play vintage games. One of the first things I noticed while I'm touring around Ruben and Bobby is a huge stack of Game Boy Advance games. Now, the Game Boy Advance is a region-free console, so I'm definitely interested in digging through this pile. And one of the first European exclusive games I find is European Super League. Who'd have thought, a soccer game exclusive to Europe, and had to grab that one up for pretty cheap, so I'm absolutely gonna grab it. And on my way out, I saw Crazy Frog Racer, also on the Game Boy Advance. Now, these are not highlight games, but hey, it's a short list of games that we're working with that are European exclusive and will work back home here in Canada, so I'm happy to grab these two and add them to the collection. Now, the Super Nintendo is not one of those consoles that's on the region-free list, but I'm pretty lucky to have picked up a Hyperkin Super Retron HD a few years ago at a yard sale, and that will play Super Nintendo games that came out in Europe. So I'm definitely digging through the stacks of SNES games, and I found Power Drive on the Super Nintendo, which was a game that was recommended on a YouTube video featuring all kinds of European exclusive games, and so Power Drive was absolutely a must-add to the collection for European exclusive games. Alright, so admittedly, I'm not the biggest toy collector. I don't have a lot of space on my shelves here in the game room, and it's not really something that I'm interested in kind of filling shelves with. But I have a couple of things here in the game room, and I do get a little nostalgic for toys from my childhood every once in a while. Ruben and Bobby, this shop is just plastered with toys from my childhood. Everything from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Biker Mice from Mars and Transformers and more. And listen, when I saw this Mighty Max toy set from my childhood, I could not pass it up. This thing is beautiful. It has all of the bits and pieces that are normally missing and lost from kids that played with them way back in the 90s, and this is absolutely going on my shelf. I don't know if I'll get into collecting full sets of Mighty Max stuff, but I'm stoked to have this one in the collection. The second shop we get a chance to hit in Copenhagen is called Nintendopusheren, and I was pretty lucky that this shop was even open. The owner of the shop let me know that they just finished days before moving the entire contents of their old location and inventory over to this new location, so things are pretty poorly lit, as you'll see in the video, and shelves are still wrapped in cellophane, cartridges are still kind of stuck in boxes and boxes, so I was really lucky to get a chance to dig through everything. The owner let me know that their entire inventory is actually online and live, so you can shop that way too. I'm gonna link his socials. The guy was super nice to me, toured me around the store, let me see stuff in the back of the building that no one else really had access to, so I'm gonna put all that footage in right here and give you a chance to check it out. Nintendopusheren, really killer shop. Cool, thanks so much.
Want to see the collection?
That would be amazing.
I have it in
yeah.
here.
So this was like set up for display.
Yeah, and
Cool.
usually it's here in the shop.
So is it meant to be for sale or always for display?
Oh, just for display.
So it's your personal collection then?
Yeah. I sold one of them because somebody was really going to play South Park Rally.
Yeah.
And like he begged me to sell it to him, so I took it out from that. And
So that's the one missing.
no, it's on the other side, but
Oh, I see.
there's 239.
That's the
And
how
there's
many are
room for
pal?
240 in this one, so there will
Wow.
always be like
That spot.
an empty space.
Is that gonna bother you? Whatever. Yeah. So 240 still. That's amazing. And not as many sports titles, it seems like.
I think the other side has the rest of it.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I'm not looking at it at all. Oh yeah. Okay. Wow.
So, and on this side, the South Park Rally is supposed to be, so there's an empty space here. But I
Okay.
got the game, I just haven't gotten to
Yeah. That's not a super uncommon game in the PAL region, is it? He
No.
just needed it for his collection.
Exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for showing it to us. That's awesome. That was my childhood console, so
Me too.
yeah.
It was started all of this.
Yeah, cool. Right on. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Hey, buddy. Finding anything good?
How about Magic Boy?
Here you
PAL
go.
Super NES. Not for me. Alright, let's get straight into what I picked up, and you know, it was super cool to get a chance to sit on the floor and dig through boxes and boxes of games that hadn't even made it out onto the shelf yet. And I guess the first game that I found out of everything was Super Morph on the Super Nintendo, which is a pretty cool little platformer puzzle game that sees you as the main character able to transform between gas, liquid, and solid to solve a series of puzzles. Kind of a neat oddity that is PAL exclusive. The next game I find again on the Super Nintendo is Super Drop Zone. And you know, this one looked pretty cool. It's a PAL exclusive that has you playing as a hero in a sort of side-scrolling shoot-'em-up style almost, where you're rescuing scientists in space. And a bit of an oddity, bit of an oddball game, strange one, but you know, PAL exclusive, and it's on my list, so I'm definitely leaving with this one. This next game was super high on my list of games to find while I was traveling around game hunting in Copenhagen, and I was stoked to pick it up. This one is Poppin' Twinbee on the Super Nintendo, and really cool and unique top-down shoot-'em-up, which just has some really cool, wild things going on in it. It has the ability to drop bombs onto the main level ground, or also just to keep your shots shooting up in the air, and really wacky, wild, crazy sprites. Beautiful game that's done by Konami, and really, really cool one, so stoked to add it to my collection. Nintendopusheren also had a pretty huge selection of newer games on the Switch. A lot of them were even sealed, and I went kind of crazy on new Switch games that are PAL exclusive. At least right now they are. There's always still a chance with newer games that they do eventually get a North American release, but for now, I believe these 4 games are all still PAL exclusive, the first of which is Pinstripe. Pinstripe seems like a really cool, creepy puzzle adventure video game on the Switch that sees you as an ex-minister who's touring around trying to find his kidnapped 3-year-old daughter from a shadowy figure called Pinstripe. It's a pretty creepy little game and has a really cool art style, so absolutely went home with me. Next up on the Switch again is Dead or School, a Metroidvania-style game, which is a 2D platformer set in 3D environments. You play as Hisako, who is a young girl that lives in a kind of post-apocalyptic world where her grandmother has told her that above ground, where there's deadly mutants, there's a safe haven, a beautiful place called a school where she can get to. So you know what? It's Dead or School in this all-out kind of hack-and-slash game. Really, really cool one, and I'm stoked to get into this one. Second to last Switch game that I picked up, and that one is Road to Guangdong. And this one's a really interesting, unique one. It's about a 3 or 4 hour experience, and it's set in the 1990s in the Guangdong district, and essentially it is a Zen narrative driving game where you are touring across the region in a car, driving, fixing the car, and ultimately trying to make your way to deal with your parents who have died in kind of a terrible accident, and yeah, you kind of adventure along and explore the narrative of that world. And you know, it might not be for everybody, but this is absolutely the kind of game that I want to add to my collection. The very last pickup of my trip to Copenhagen was another on the Switch, and that one is Coffee Crisis. And you know, if there was ever a game made for me, this is it. I worked as a barista for 8 years, and you know, this one's a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up, kind of a brawler game that's all set in the world where aliens have attacked Earth, and a couple of baristas from a coffee shop have to take up bags of coffee, hot cups of tea, and sling them around to defend Earth from an extraterrestrial invasion. This one is totally my my cup of joe, so this one's going in the collection. And that's a wrap on my trip to Copenhagen, Denmark, a game hunting adventure, and a bunch of other awesome stuff that we had a chance to do while we were there. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks for sticking around. I really appreciate it. A like, subscribe, comment on the video, any of that kind of stuff really goes a long way into helping my channel grow. And you know, I wasn't done after Copenhagen. We flew right away out of Copenhagen, Denmark, into Oxford, England, and I've got another little game hunting adventure for you there coming up next. So stick around, subscribe, all that content's coming soon. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.